Dear brothers and sisters, having a religion in our life is a good thing because religion, faith, allows us to live our lives well and wholesomely. And of course, that life led, that is infused with faith, strengthened by faith, is that kind of life that will lead us eventually to that true and complete peace and happiness with God, whom we believe in. Religion also teaches us to live in harmony while we are here with people who may not necessarily share our points of views or religious beliefs. Religion also teaches about the truth of life, which the fundamental truth is love. We at least try to live our lives with love that we receive from God. In the Catholic faith, we believe that God gave us 10 commandments. The 10 commandments, which are really commandments about life and love. They teach us about life and how to lead those lives in love. God even became man in person of Jesus to teach us and to further reinforce that teaching, that deposit of faith that is passed to us from very, very ancient time. Essentially, the 10 Commandments teach us that fundamental truth, that God is love. And God gives Himself as love. He embraces each and every one of us. And He encourages us. He challenges us to share that gift of love that we freely receive with one another, with our neighbor. A neighbor who may be right next to us and the neighbor that may be the farthest away from us. And all the religious practices flow from that fundamental truth of love. We practice our faith. We do everything we do out of love for God. And we take it out. And we share it with one another. Be it in Mass, as we worship together as a community of faithful, or praying a rosary with family, or by ourselves, or even by abstaining from meal on Friday. So whatever we do, whatever customs, whatever practices we follow in our faith, within it, we do it to express our love for God, which expression of we find in our love of neighbor. In the Gospel, the scribes and Pharisees had a contention with some of the disciples of Jesus who were eating with unclean hands. The act of washing hands before eating is certainly a good hygiene practice. But practical hygienic practice was turned sooner or later into whole religious custom, ritual. So it grew up to be way more than it was supposed to be. It became its own religious tradition. So anyone who ate without first carrying out that ritual cleansing of hands was accused of not respecting the tradition of the elders. When the scribes and Pharisees questioned Jesus about that, He pointed out to the motive of doing that, to the motive of such practice. Jesus said that such practices were formulated by human impositions that might have not necessarily expressed the love for God and for the neighbor. Jesus also quoted the prophet Isaiah to even further strengthen his point. He quoted Isaiah, who once said that the commandment of God was even put aside in favor of human traditions, in favor of human precepts. So the fundamental purpose of the commandment of God was blurred and even lost its meaning It was embellished by elaborate human practices. There is a story that may well illustrate the absurdity of human practices that are there just for the sake of them being there, that may turn into religious rituals. So once upon a time, there was an abbot of a monastery who had a cat. The cat was causing a distraction for the monks during prayer. So as a solution, the abbot would tie up that cat each time the monks would go into prayer. And it even became a religious practice, a regular practice. As time went by, the abbot died, but the practice did not die. The practice continued. So each time the monks would go to pray, they tied up the cat. And after some time, the cat also died. However, the monks found yet another cat that they would tie up each time they would go to pray. As time passed, the practice of tying up the cat during prayer became a religious practice. They even started a devotion to the string that they used to tie up the cat. And the string became a religious object. As much as absurd it may sound, it also makes us think twice about our religious practices, about some of the rituals that we have, that we practice each day. Because the motive for everything we do is to give our expression of the love of God that we have. This is the only purpose that any ritual, that any practice serves. There is no other reason behind all those practices that we have. So every time we do something out of religious devotion, out of religious respect, we need to be intentional about that. And to have it, to mean it as the expression of our love for God and our share of that love that we give to our neighbor. Let us remember the fundamental commandment of God, which is love. And let us keep that love in mind and in heart every time we do anything religiously. May our religious practices be there only and solely to express our love for God and for our neighbor. And may those religious practices help us to live our lives wholesomely and holy. Amen.